Hi everybody, Joe here from SHUTTERSPEAK Photography. Very nice to see your smiling faces again here on YouTube. So you've probably heard people mention back focus and using the back focus button. So if you're not familiar with back focus, I'm going to go through today what back focus is and how you use it on your Nikon Z camera, when you might want to use it, and what menu settings you may or may not want to change to get the most out of it. You'll notice right here on the back there's this little AF-on button, and that is your quote-unquote back focus button. So hey, before we dive right into this video, I'd just like to say thank you. I appreciate you being here, and I do appreciate you watching. If anything, this video helps you out, please help me out by hitting the subscribe button and ring the bell so you get notified of future updates to this channel. Thanks in advance. It's something nice that you can do for me, and best of all, it's free. So hey, let's take a look at how it works and why you might want to use it. Okay, so as I mentioned, you'll notice that there is a button right there that says AF-on. Now, out of the box, your Nikon camera, your Nikon Z series camera, and for the most part, all your Nikon DSLR cameras as well, are programmed in a default way from Nikon, and that way is if you half press the shutter button, right, half press, the camera will grab focus. Now, alternately, you can use your thumb, right, and press the AF-on button. Pressing the AF-on button will accomplish the same thing. It will cause your camera to focus. Okay, so you basically have two identical methods of focusing. Half press the shutter or thumb press the AF-on button. Okay, as soon as you let go of the AF-on button, the camera will stop trying to focus. There's a slight difference to how this works by pressing the button here or pressing the button here. When you press the button here, you activate also your your electronic stabilization, your image stabilization. When you press the back focus button, you do not. Okay, so slight difference, but out of the box, they basically do the same exact thing. So, let me give you a few scenarios, and I'll give you a few reasons why you may or may not want to change that. And I'll show you how to do it, of course, as well. Okay, so let's set up our back focus. So in the Nikon menu, just scroll on down to your custom settings menu and then go to A for autofocus and scroll down to autofocus activation. That may be A6 on your menu, and then scroll down to AF on and then enable out of focus release. Okay, and now you have enabled your back focus button and remove focus from the shutter release button. Okay, so now that we know how to activate back focus and disconnect it from the shutter release button, let's talk about why you would want to do that and a few scenarios where you'd find that to be very helpful. Okay, so I'll give you an example of when I was shooting NHL hockey for the press. Sometimes maybe there would be a time where a magazine or newspaper wanted a particular shot of, say, the goaltender. Okay, and the goaltender, specifically they wanted the goaltender making a save. Okay, in the old days we would do, this is essentially what they would call a focus trap. Okay, so by disconnecting focus from the shutter release button and only keeping it on this rear back focus button or AF-on button, what we can do is we can take our camera, we can compose our shot, we can press the AF-on button, okay, and let it focus on the goaltender. We can then release the button, and the camera is now focused on that spot. Essentially, all we needed to do was wait for something to happen. Generally, and this is a great pro hockey shooting tip, as soon as you saw the goaltender's knees start to flex, that would mean they were going to go down to the ice to make a save. And so you would know a shot was imminently coming. So as soon as you start to see a little bend in the knees, just hit that shutter release button and the camera will start firing off a burst of photos. Now, being that the puck travels at 100 plus miles an hour, okay, you couldn't wait for something to happen. You had to do it beforehand. And very often, because the game is very fluid and dynamic, people would skate through. Players are skating through your line of sight to the goaltender. The ref might come through, etc. So if we left autofocus on the shutter release button, what's going to happen is every time a player skates through or a ref skates through the image, the camera is going to try and focus on that person. As soon as they pass, it's going to try and refocus. Okay, and it may not necessarily be on the goaltender. It may be a player who's now closer in the scene, and now a goaltender might be slightly out of focus. So by removing it from the shutter focus and placing it on the back button, we now eliminate that scenario, and anything that skates through, they're out of focus, we don't care, but the camera keeps shooting. Okay, generally the camera will not shoot an image if it's not in focus, especially when you're using the shutter release button as your focusing method. So we get some blurry shots of a ref passing through, we might get some blurry shots of a player as he skates through, but everything else is going to be in focus on that goaltender. It doesn't matter to us how many other players enter the scene, the camera's not going to grab focus on anybody else, and we're going to get that nice, crisp, clean shot in perfect focus, and that's what we're looking for. Now another example, we're photographing a wedding. Okay, we know it's about to be time for the first kiss, and we're down the center aisle of the church or temple or wherever we're shooting, right? And we're about to get that first kiss. We're all set up and focused, right? And now all of a sudden, grandma jumps up with her cell phone right into the aisle and snaps a picture. And because she's the closest thing to the camera now, right? Our camera, if we're using front shutter release focus, is going to grab focus on grandma, right? As soon as she sits back down, or maybe we move to get out of the way, right? The camera is going to focus hunt again and look for our subject, right? So in that split second, as the camera is focus hunting, we could miss that incredible shot. We could miss that entire moment. Okay, so by, again, disconnecting focus from the shutter release, we take our camera, we use our back focus button, press it, release it, and we focused on our couple, right? Now when the moment comes of that first kiss, we just hit the shutter release button and start firing. Anybody gets in our way and passes in or out, anything else happens, even as we move, nothing matters now. The camera is locked to focus on that spot, and we're going to get our best chance of grabbing that image. Of course, there's no guarantee that grandma didn't block us out at that moment, and I think any wedding photographer can tell you that there's always the chance that that can happen, right? But, of course, they always try and set themselves up in the best possible way to avoid scenarios like that, but of course it could happen. So you're giving yourself the best possible chance of keeping focus locked on and avoiding that focus hunt to miss that incredible moment. Another scenario, nature photographer, okay, they have maybe a bird up in a tree, and they're waiting for the bird to take flight, or maybe it's a nest and they're waiting to see the first glimpse of the baby birds, right? And again, we've disconnected focus from here. We can compose on the nest, hit the back focus button once, let the button go. We're now locked onto that spot. And as soon as the bird takes flight or the baby birds emerge or whatever the case might be, I'm sorry, I'm not a nature photographer. So, but you get the point. You can just hit that shutter button. The camera's going to start firing off images immediately because it's already locked to that focus point. Another scenario, astrophotography, right? You're taking pictures of the night sky. Okay, it's almost impossible for the camera to focus on the night sky, but you can, again, disconnect focus, right? You can compose on the moon. Use the back focus button, and now that's it. You don't need to worry about it again unless you've shut your camera off. Okay, now you're focused out on infinity perfectly. You can compose for your night sky and take a picture as long as you don't change your focal length right? Or as long as you don't shut your camera off, you're going to have perfect focus. And of course, the same goes true for all of those scenarios, whether it be sports, whether it be wildlife, whatever it might be. Once you hit that back focus button and you lock in focus, if you zoom, you're changing focus. So you're going to need to recompose by pressing that back focus button again. So don't forget that. But the idea would be you zoom in, you frame your perfect shot, you hit the back focus button. Once you release it, you wait for the action to happen. As soon as it starts to happen, you press and hold your shutter release and you start firing off your burst of images, and you get the perfect shot because there's absolutely no delay. Now again, this is a new way of shooting, right? And if you're at the family birthday party or wherever it might be, or even if you're shooting a sports event and you're looking and things look clear to you and you're firing off images, but you weren't hitting that back focus button, you may get home and find a whole bunch of soft images, right? So if you're in autofocus continuous and you're shooting off a series of images of a player that's in motion moving down the field, you may be zooming in and out. Again, the focal plane may be changing because he's running towards you or running away from you. You can press and hold the autofocus on button, and that will allow your camera to continuously focus as the action moves. As soon as you release it, it stops. So it's a new way of shooting, and you have to remember to press and hold that button. Otherwise, you're going to miss shots. So just as much as it can help you get shots, it can help you miss shots if it's not a habit. So if it's a new way of shooting for you, you have to make it become habit. Okay, so there is a way to basically accomplish the same thing without using autofocus on the back of the camera. So let's say, for example, you wanted to shoot someone in sports, maybe a batter in baseball. You know exactly where his position is and you want to get him mid-swing, right? You can change your focus to autofocus single. Now, once you're in autofocus single, you put the camera up and you half press the shutter button. Once you half press the shutter button, the camera will focus. As long as you do not release that half press, the camera will stay locked on. You can move it anywhere you want. It's not going to matter. It's going to stay locked in that single focus position. You press the button down the rest of the way, the camera will take the picture. Now, the second you release that button, the camera is going to look for focus again. So you'd kind of have to be okay with that if you're only looking for a single shot in one scenario. If you wanted to take continuous shots of that batter and you're going to be pressing the button multiple times, then back focus is a better option for you. But if it's just a one-time thing where you're going to focus on the batter, you half press that button, you hold it down, the picture starts to wind up, you finish the press all the way down, the camera starts firing off a series of images. As soon as he either hits the ball or the catcher catches it and the play is basically over, you release the button and the camera stops shooting. Now, at that point, your next shot, you're going to have to half press again and the camera will look for focus. Again, lock on, and until you release it, it will stay there. So that's a way of accomplishing a very similar, if not the exact same thing, without changing to the back focus button, in case you weren't comfortable with doing that. So you can also give that a try as well. Let me know how that works out for you. Okay, so I hope you found that helpful. If you did, please hit that subscribe button. I'd appreciate that. Let me know in the comments if you use back focus or if you're going to give it a try, or if you haven't given it a try, let me know your thoughts on it, or if you have a different use case for it, I'd love to hear about it. I do try and answer most people who comment, and if you follow the channel, you know that I really put a lot of effort into that. So I'd love to hear from you. Thanks again for watching YouTube. I appreciate you, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.